get started here, we're going to show you, walk you around this new N500C Drill air seeder. I'm Everett Manchel, CTS out of Red Cloud and Smith Center. I also have Matt Strite, service manager out of Red Cloud, Levi Pumphrey, service technician out of Red Cloud, or Phillipsburg, sorry about that. We'll walk you around this air seeder. We'll start up at the hitch, work our way around, kind of pointing some things out, and then we'll pull it up on the simulator and kind of show you what it looks like on the simulator. Show of hands, how many of you coming from a 1990 to one of these? One? You guys over there? All right, has everybody in the room been around either one of these? You want to have a competition to see who can change the meters faster? I take this one, you guys get that one. So, all right, that's one of the main things. As you know, standing here, this is awesome, 6'2". I'm underneath this thing. I'm working duck down right here at the meters. It's a great big improvement. I say a lot of bad words and get stuck when I get underneath that tank trying to change a meter. So if you guys want to get up, follow me around here. We'll kind of start up here at the hitch and work our way around. So, if you look at it, it does have the new Pro Series opener on it. We'll go over that as well. So, this one does take, you're going to have the Gen 4, whether it be a 4600 or a 4640 monitor. You're going to have that in your tractor. It's got active downforce on 30 series or newer John Deere tractors. So we've got SCV1, we're going to run our ranks up and down. Number 2, fold. 3 is going to be our CCS blower, and then we have power beyond because we have active downforce. You know, traditionally we'd set our SCV in continuous, and we'd be running that oil all the time. This drill uses power beyond and is consistent, keeping that consistent depth for us. Really nice feature, works well. Really easy to catch on to when you're running it. So it's got scales on it. We can ActiveCal. So we'll just work our way around. Big benefit to this is we can lock up our front and rear ranks here. On that 1990, we could only lock up the front rank because our drive tire was on the rear rank, so our wear would get uneven from our front to our rear rank. With this drill, we can lock up the front rank and drill this season with the rear rank. Next year, we can drill beans with the opposite rank. We can keep that wear more even on it. So that's a huge benefit there. So we'll just, maintenance items, you do have a hydraulic filter here. I believe that's a 500-hour service on that. Just relieve the pressure. So remove your power beyond hoses from the tractor, come back here and change this hydraulic filter. Beginning of the season, just like any air seeder, we try not to turn with these in the ground. I understand we have curves and everything out there. There's some resistance on that quite a bit. Usually where we see that stress is on these bolts here. So do a walk around on your drill pre-season. Check out all your bolts on the frame, make sure they're tight. Don't have any broken bolts on there. So that'll help us out. We'll just move on around to our opener here on the side. Big improvement on this. Anybody tell me what it is? Absolutely, one grease zerk. So we've got one grease zerk on it, makes serviceability a lot easier. It does have a new seed boot, a narrower seed boot, a narrower press wheel. As you come by, we've got a stand here that'll show you. So you got your narrow seed boot, narrow press wheel, your seed firmer. A new improved seed firmer does a better job getting that placement. And then we have our cast iron serrated closing wheel for breaking up those clods and closing that trench up. We do have the ability here on the gauge wheel. Got a few different options. You can get the spoked wheel from the factory. You can get solid or spoked, narrow or wide. We've had a lot of guys really like the spoked gauge wheel. So opener, our disc here, 18. You want to talk about that, Matt? Where are you at?
This is a used opener, and we've made a mark from the hub down, so you don't have to take. It's hard to check the diameter of it with it on the drill. So what we've done is we've made a mark from the hub to the outside. 5 1/4 when measured that way is this is shot. That's 16 inches, and that's the minimum size you can use at all. Some places say to change them before this, but this is the absolute measurement that Deere gives you, that basically they're non-serviceable after that.
Just starts out your full diameter of the new one.
Yeah.
What was it new?
The full diameter was 18.
So new one's 18 diameter. When it gets to 16, replace it. So a couple other things to check, I guess, when you get started. Your seed boot has a spring right down in here. Make sure you get some wear on these going through the field. Those have a tendency to break, and then it won't hold that opener over again, or the seed boot over against the blade. Make sure your gauge wheel is in good shape. We don't have a lot of abuse on the edge of it here. About an 1/8 inch gap. Still cleaning off that blade. Do a good visual on it as well. We've got our same spring settings. This spring tension right here for our closing wheel. This one's for our press wheel. And then we've got our gauge wheel depth arm adjustment right here. Walk around, they're pretty stiff and firm when they're new. You get some age and wear on them, they do loosen up, the tension comes off of them. They can jump, and you'll have them set differently going through the field. So just every once in a while when you're walking around them, check that. Your depth gauge arm, very bottom notch is a 1/2 inch depth. Every notch after that's a 1/4 inch. So just a good rule of thumb to go through there, and however deep you want it. Just remember, first one's a 1/2 inch, and that's a 1/4 after that. In no-till, we get along great. Best opener out there as far as I'm concerned. We run a lot of these. If you get into conventional till and you're using both ranks, you might have to slow down just a hair, just because to keep your uniform emergence. You'll have your seed in the ground up here and they're coming by, and this one might throw a little dirt and cover that front trench up. So you might have a little bit, slow it down a mile or two and you'll get along fine. So no till, you don't have to worry about it. Just like before, if you're wanting to lock a rank up, we've got our Y manifold splitter right here. we've just got these little clips, so solid, and then it's got a U shape right there. So if you're wanting to shut the seed off to the front rank, you just put that in like that and then tell it on the monitor. Or if you want to seed with it, you just flip it in there so the seed can go by it. Leave them on there. Don't get a coffee can and put them in your tractor. Put them there because you're just going to lose them. So leave them right there where they're at. A wear point on an air seeder, probably the most overlooked wear point, your seed tubes. So anywhere you got a curve like this, that seed's coming along and it's hitting on this edge, so it's gonna thin this out. These are firm. I mean, you can't squeeze them and collapse them. The more wear you get on that, you'll collapse that down. Just go see your local parts department, get you some tubing, replace that. Do a check on it. It's not uncommon. You want some slack, not too much. Have the rank all the way down so you have full motion. If you cut them if you have them up and you cut that tube, then when you lower it, it'll pull out of there. Speaking from experience, it always happens in the center, so you can't see it, and you're just broadcasting seed out there. So just make sure you give yourself a little bit of slack and do a visual inspection on that. We got an electric drive system on this. We have scales underneath this tank. We'll give you the ability to climb all over it, walk around it. So if you guys want to follow me around here to the back, I think I'm done on the side. Anybody?
When you got the correct down pressure on there, the rock shaft.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. So typically what we've done in the past is on these route shafts, we've always set our downforce. On our old ones, we had a gauge. I've never ever went by the gauge just because different soil conditions and everything, you got to run that gauge. You know, they say run it in the green. Well, if I run that in the green in certain soil conditions, I'm not going to get depth. So I got to be in the red sometimes in more compact soils. So a good rule of thumb, just keep the top of this rock shaft parallel with the ground. Active downforce, it's going to be adjusting that for us, keeping our uniform depth. So if you want to work your way on back here, our meter gates are still full closed, third, 2/3, and full open, just like before. I'll just start with them up. So you just walk around back here, turn that knob, fold that down, and you can adjust your meter gates. All right. And then we've got our metering cups with our actual meter. This is the slickest part about this, one of the slick things about this drill. Somebody booby trapped me here, I think. There we go. Alright, there's your seed meter. That's way faster than what we're used to in years past. So we still have 32 millimeter white meter, 32 millimeter black, and then a 16 millimeter meter. So you guys can all see that. It just sets in there on your drive, and that's what turns your meter. When you put these in here, you can come up here and look. You just have to align your grooves here, and then you might have to slide your metering wheel just to fit in that cup, and then just slide it down in even, and then make sure that your meter drive lines up there. Otherwise, you might have to pull it back out and adjust that. So, air plenum right here, so we can just lift up on this handle, flip this down. This is, they do recommend taking this clamp off and removing that, and then turning on your blower, and it'll blow all the dust and talc and everything out of here, cleans these out, and then just reattach your hoses. So, over here, we've got your light, work light in the back. We've got our switch here for running our electric meters for when we're priming them meters, filling them up, and doing our calibration. We have some auxiliary hose hookups if you're running an auger conveyor on it. And then our hydraulic valve to turn our CCS blower on and off. This is our calibration catch bag. So when we go to calibrate, just drop your air plenum down, take your air bag or your catch bag, hook that in here. Make sure your bag's pushed under there. Cinch it up, and then you can walk over here, turn your meter drive so that it rotates, seat comes out, and do that on all 4 of them so you know your meter's full. Empty your bag, and then we'll reinstall and calibrate. You can go in, we'll show you on the monitor. You can calibrate each meter individually. It also gives you the option, you can calibrate the first meter, and then it'll ask you, do you want to use this calibration for all 4 meters? You can go ahead and do that. When I've ran it, I've just calibrated all 4 because it's that fast to do it. It also has ActiveCal, so it's got a predefined calibration factor for each crop. You can go ahead and hit ActiveCal. It'll start calibrating. It'll go through. It'll tell you how much you've drilled, and then it'll give you a new MDV value or a meter displacement value. It'll ask you if you want to apply that new value. You just tell it yes, accept it, and you just changed it. So anytime you change seed, brand or variety, you know, probably want to redo a calibration, seed size, redo that. We'll show you on the monitor, on the scales, it tells you just right down to exactly how much you got left. I mean, it's a pretty slick rig. Seems like it might be a little confusing to catch on to. I'd have to say it's one of the easier seeders I've ever been around. So we'll go ahead and with that, if you guys want to get around where you can see the TV, I'll have Matt run the simulator for me. We do have camera hookups around this seeder. Okay, so this is just your SeedStar setup. So go ahead and hit your yellow X out of that map. Okay, so on your Gen 4 display, go to machine settings. You should have a SeedStar button there. There should be a SeedStar button there. Just, yeah, jump into that one. It's the same, it takes you to the same place. Okay, so when you're setting this up, select, if you're going to do it, we'll just pretend we're going to do a single rank, and we're going to use the front rank. So I've locked up my rear rank valve in the front. I've put my splitters in, so now all my seed's going to flow to the front, and that's the only opener that's going to go down. Matt's going to click on this setup here for his rollers. And right there it says rank selection. Go ahead and Matt's going to touch on that. He's going to select his front rank. and then select his roller.
Highway.
And then he's also going to set his corn over there on his work setup. Go in there, select your crop, put soybean variety. Just put corn in there. Okay. No, I didn't really need it. Simulated. Add variety. Okay. All right. Okay. Sick of me saying okay yet? Nope. All right. So then we've got our meter displacement values down there at the bottom. This is our seed setup. He can move over to alarms. And then you've got some blockage alarms that you can do. You can increase, decrease your sensitivities of it. The behaviors of your alarm. If you want it to alarm on a block, if you want it to beep or do nothing, please don't select do nothing. And then there's some advanced settings for blockage delay, blockage alarm reminder. So what these are, you know, for example, if when you're first taking off, you set down or you raise up and it's not CNC'd right away, you can change that delay. I just left everything at default. Personally, when I ran it, I got a longer eight. So there are some advanced settings there though, so go ahead and close out that. The setup button at the top, the up arrow with the dot, we always know that is setup. So Matt, does that let you open up in this? That's the info tab. Does it let you open it? Okay.
I pushed it.
So go back now. So in the simulator I found earlier, so we'll just stay on this page right now. So we've got our target rate over here at the left, top left, we've got our meter status. Right below that, we've got our different rates, so we can change on the go. Relative flow right there in the middle at the top. This is like planner at a glance. It's showing us how each row is going. That's going to constantly be dancing, going through the field, showing us what it's doing. Right below that's our section control status bars. So when we get to planting, we'll see those go green, green, black, striped green, depending on what's going on with them. Over to the top right is our EPG. This was probably the hardest thing for me about this drill, but I'm pretty simple. So this thing gets really mad at you if you get out of order with turning the EPG on, which is the power takeoff generator here. So you always want to engage your PTO and then hit the on button. If you don't, it gets real mad and all you think the thing's going to blow up. But it's all right. You just clear the code and do it in the correct order. So, and then right below that will be your air pressure readings. So at the bottom of the page, we have our diagnostics and calibration. So if Matt touches on that, we've got all sorts of different diagnostics we can go through, bin level, downforce, height sensors, voltages, all sorts of good stuff we can look through and troubleshoot this if we need to. Right below that's our calibrations. So we've got two of them. We've got a meter calibration and a height calibration. So Matt clicks on the height calibration. It's just like what we're used to. It'll have you begin calibration. It'll tell you to raise the machine, lower the machine. I think the simulator will have you do it. But it walks you through step by step. So right there, raise it completely up, and then next, and then lower it. And then it'll tell you it's calibrated, or if it fails, it tells you why. Okay, once you get your height one done, now we need to do our our meter calibration. Just close it or cancel it. Okay, so right here's where we've got the ability to either do a manual cal or an active cal. I'm going to show you the manual cal, so Matt's going to go ahead and hit that. You got to meet the calibration prerequisites. So we got to be stationary and our EPG must be active. And then it tells you shut the blower off, plenum in the calibration position, which is down. Slide gates open, so our seed will come out, and then put our catch bag on. Okay? Walk through there, and then now here you can select which one you want to do. Left wing, left inner, right outer. So go ahead and just select the right inner, because that's the one I'm on. Check one. There you go. Alright, so it defaults at 50 RPM to rotate it. It's going to go ahead and make sure you've primed those meters. So it wants you to make sure they're full. Go ahead and hit next. Alright, and then it's going to have you hold the switch. So just stand over here, hold the switch. It's going to go ahead and calibrate. It's going to count the revolutions. And then when it's done, go ahead and hit cancel. It'll come up with a box just like before. It says, wants you to weigh your bag. So you got your digital scales here. I will mention, hang your bag on here empty, 0 to out. And then when you take the bag off with your seed in it, weigh it, put your weight in here, and it'll give you your MDV value. So you've just calibrated that meter, and then you can go back in, begin calibration, and you can do it on your next seed. So go ahead and close that and go to there's a run page, so just go close down that. And then just arrow through until you get to your, keep it on, keep going. Keep going. Okay, so here we go. So this is what you're going to be looking at going through the field. So Matt can hit, for example, his downforce there. He can hit this and see we don't have, our downforce is off. So our active downforce won't be working right here. We'd be working off a manual, okay? They do say 30 series and newer tractors. SCV will be auto, and you can use auto downforce. Older series tractors and non-John Deere, you will have to use manual. So Matt can go ahead and turn that on, and then you have your target downforce over there to the left, and you can go ahead and adjust that. To the right, or sorry, to the left, downforce is his population. So if Matt hits, where it says 25 pounds. So Matt hits that, it brings up his population. You can change your rates on the fly. 5 preset rates, or you can choose prescription. Go ahead and hit edit rates. Yellow pencil. Okay. So this is pretty neat here. So you can go ahead and put your presets in there. Or at the bottom, check mark that, show estimated seeds per acre. So just put 2,800 in there. So yeah, seeds per pound, sorry. Okay, so 2,800 seeds per pound. I don't care, select rate 2, or put 50 pounds in rate 4. Change that. Okay, so we're going to say we're doing 50 pounds to the acre. Our seeds, 2,800 seeds per pound. If he comes over and hits that calculator, it tells us what our seeds per acre is. So, I don't know, that's kind of neat. I'm with a lot of guys and they're like, well, what's my seeds per acre? Or what's my seeds per pound? Well, John Deere just gave you this. I'll do the same thing or I'll do it anyway. So, they did it for you on here. So, go ahead and hit OK on that. Close out of that. So we got our population at the top, we got our downforce. The next one over is our, go ahead and hit that. This is our relative flow. So if we're going through the field, these are going to be dancing, okay? It's going to be going on, and let's just say in this yellow box, all Matt has to do is touch somewhere on here. So if this box goes red and he wants to look at it, he touches on that and it highlights it yellow. Well, then it brings up your individual rows that are them 16 rows in this yellow box. Now it's up here, 16. So let's say row 8 was bad. He can click on row 8. All right, now it tells us, gives us the information, what's going on with that row. We can really dial in, tells us what meter, what roller, what rank, your module input. It gives you the colors, you know, greens flowing, reds blocked, unexpected flow versus disabled. So it really lets you dial in and see what's going on with that particular row. So a real handy feature that we haven't had in the past. Yeah, and you can go in there as well where your seed sensor is and turn that on or off if you've got one acting up or you don't want to be looking at it. So go ahead and click that. So then we've got our roller RPM and then curve compensation. We can go ahead and touch that and it'll turn on, give you the ability to turn curve compensation on. So now your electric drive meters will be turning or speeding up and slowing down how they need to be like our electric drive planters do. So leaps and bounds ahead of that seeder on this one. So what's that here? Curve. Yeah, why not? So yep. Biggest thing is remembering to go in and turn on your active downforce. So just go in there, click it on. It'll tell you. It'll come up active downforce not turned on. So before on these we raise and lower with SCV1, we were always in continuous flow. When you go into auto, our active is on Power Beyond. So it'll default, go back to your downforce page. It defaults to 22nd. So I think if you hit your SCV, it's just telling you it's in float. Go ahead and turn it off and go back into your other setup page. But it'll default to 20 seconds, so you just click your SCV, it'll set it down, and then Power Beyond takes off after that, and it'll keep that consistent depth. You can come in here, you can watch it on your downforce page, and you'll see that changing. Your air pressure, that's just what we know as our CCS blower. You'll see that. Has your rate there. That's about the nuts and bolts. I can't think of anything that I skipped. Oh, I did skip. I skipped something real big. Okay, so electric power generator up here. So very important to take care of this. So we've got our alternator here and we've got 3 bolts. Go ahead and take these off at the beginning of the season. take this off and use a moly grease in there and lubricate that, as well as where it slides onto your PTO. Okay, you got a drain plug here for oil. Go ahead and service it, change your oil, drain that out. It takes high guard, it takes 17 fluid ounces of high guard, or just make sure it's on there level and fill it up until it runs out the bottom, but it should be about 17 fluid ounces. I get a lot of questions, you know, should that thing rattle or kind of a tinny sound? It's pretty common, don't get alarmed on that. We haven't had any issues with them. So, get kind of nervous on a big crowd and can't really remember what I went over, but I think I covered it. The scales are awesome. It tells you, it knows exactly if you zero them out or put a known weight in there and tell it what your known weight is, then it knows your population. It's going to tell you, hey Frank, you got 35 acres until you're empty. You know, I mean, it counts that down or whatever for you. So, really an awesome drill. Recalibrated anytime you change meters, density change, seat types. So, that's all I've got for you on it. There is, I keep reaching for my phone. This is her phone. So there is an app on this. Go in, download Seeding Plus or Seeder Plus. It'll have a walk around on here. So beginning of the season, tells you all your grease points, a 50-hour service, 150. I think it goes to 500 and then into season. So it's changing crop types, so changing meters. Tells you exactly what to do, walks you through everything that you need to do. So